I'm not exactly what you would call a Marvel shill. A lot of the stuff that has come out of Marvel and or Disney in general has been pretty poopy lately. Acolyte was awful, the Marvels literally had me falling asleep in the theatre, and I was in a fugue state or something because I literally do not remember Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Like, that movie has been erased from my mind. I can't recall anything that happened in it. I'd kind of given up on this universe, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't planning to go see Captain America: Brave New World. But then I saw something quite interesting happening on the internet. Something very familiar, but this time strangely different. See, a lot of people were insisting this movie was cheeks. A lot of the reviews called it stupid or pointless, and they were really harsh on specific elements of the movie. And usually when this happens, there's going to be people on the other side of the fence insisting that the movie was the best thing ever and basically the second coming of Christ. But what made this instance interesting, what made this raise my eyebrows when I looked at it, I saw that the people on the other side of the fence weren't yelling that this is a perfect movie. In fact, the one thing that they were insisting was that it's a decent movie, it's a good time, and we should kind of calm the fuck down. And that was really interesting to me because the internet is a swirl of angry nerds just fucking yelling at each other and being smelly. So to see a side of a debate or a conversation just be kind of normal and cool for everyone to just calm down and go see the movie, that was interesting to me. That made me take a second glance. It got my interest. And then a YouTuber I quite enjoy watching the shorts of, Classic Man D, shout out to Classic Man D, came out and said that he actually liked the movie and felt that the movie had heart, and I respect his opinion on a lot of things, so I remember thinking, heart. Hearing that word in relation to a Marvel movie is ultimately what pushed me over the edge of curiosity, because heart is the one thing that I wouldn't say Marvel or Disney in general has right now. And at that point, this movie no longer had my interest. Instead, it straight up had my attention. So, on a day where I had time and money, those days are getting fewer and fewer between each other as I get older, I decided to check it out. Still not really expecting anything above mediocre at best, and what I want to convey to you with the intro and all that's been building up to this is I want to convey to you just how pleasantly surprised I was to have a good time watching this movie. And I'm going to go over a few things that I really liked about it and why I think you should watch it. Because I genuinely had a good theatre experience for the first time in a little while. You know, if we're not counting Sonic 3. I fucking loved Sonic 3, man. So, yeah, in no particular order, I'm going to go over some common criticisms I heard and what I think of them and how they relate to the movie, and just some stuff I liked and maybe didn't like about it, and that's what I'm going to do here. A lot of common complaints I see, specifically from the power scaling section of the fandom, is that Sam has no right fighting the Red Hulk, and I want to say right now that not only is this conflict not really the focal point of the movie, it is kind of over-advertised, but also the fact that Sam has no right fighting the Red Hulk is kind of a consistent theme in that fight. Without spoiling too much, throughout the movie they basically make it a point to show off Sam's technology and his skill with said technology and what he's capable of doing with it. And by the time we get to the Red Hulk, you see that technology pushed to its absolute limits, like things getting torn apart, vibranium wings shaking basically off their hilts. You basically see Sam expend every option that's been displayed to us throughout the movie. But yeah, without getting too deep into it, I want to say they do consider how much of an underdog Sam is in this fight, and they show it pretty damn well. Next up, I kind of want to vaguely talk about the villain of the movie. Not many people talk about him. I'm not sure if he's in any of the promotional material or stuff because I haven't really seen much of it, and so I'm not really going to say who it is. But I am going to say they're pretty damn intimidating. They're pretty effective in this formula, in this movie as a villain. They also have a really cool, what I think is a prosthetic design. And the villain's way of navigating the plot and their way of getting things to happen is actually kind of creepy, and they lean into that quite a bit. There are moments where they're a bit cheesy, but I mean, come on, it's a Marvel movie. Gonna go into light spoiler territory here. A common criticism I see of the villain is this one specific part of the movie where they say that they calculated a probability that if they threatened a certain person in Captain America's life, then Sam would back off. He wouldn't get involved with what was going on. And people are saying that this is dumb because it's basically the entire reason that Sam gets involved with the plot. And I can see why they say that, I can see where they're coming from. But what I got from it is one of the reoccurring weaknesses that this villain seems to have is that they don't really take account for what kind of person they're dealing with. They deal in the absolutes and in the numbers and in the probabilities. And while this isn't explicitly said, every single time they screw up in the movie, every time the villain does something wrong or gets something wrong, it seems to be because they misunderstood a person and how that person would react. Taking their plan into account from a fully analytical and cynical view, one of the first things that's apparent after they enact their plan to get Captain America to back off is that Sam is put in a position where acting is very, very difficult. And I can see why a villain who doesn't know Sam personally would think that this was a valid idea. Moving on from the next point, Isaiah Bradley from Falcon and the Winter Soldier also makes a return in this movie, and I've got to say he adds a massive amount of heart to the movie. I think it's where most of the movie's heart comes from. He was one of the best parts about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which wasn't really a good series but had some good things in it, and Isaiah was definitely one of those good things, and he's really good here. There's a specific moment in this movie where he just looks at Sam, and the expression of pain and fear on his face is so palpable that it actually kind of slapped me out of that mundane, grey Marvel viewing mindset that I was in, and actually made me start to give a shit about what was happening in this movie and its characters. So, seriously, shout out to Cole Lumley, who plays Isaiah. Really pulled through in this. Really good performance. Another actor who also pulls through like a master, Harrison Ford. I was surprised, honestly, because this man had every reason to just kind of phone it in. He could have just taken his check and left, and I was honestly expecting him to, but he gave quite a compelling performance. He acted really well, he conveyed a lot of pain and emotion. He wasn't just this cynical president giving orders. He actually has quite an emotional tie and arc to this story, which is why Red Hulk even exists in the movie in the first place. And I mean, it's quite good. Newsflash, Harrison Ford is a good actor. Another common criticism that I hear is that the new Falcon, Sam's sidekick, is apparently really annoying. And I've been seeing these weird sort of things crop up where people really hate this character. And while I can kind of get not liking him, there's really not enough of him to hate in this movie. He's not really around enough to be annoying. Yeah, he makes a couple of jokes that don't land, but there really isn't enough here to hate. And one thing I will say in this character's defense is that his last scene in the movie is actually kind of emotional. He has some good dialogue with Sam that actually hit where it was supposed to. Well, for me at least. Another thing I really like about this movie, but has been criticised quite a bit, is that I really like that this movie is kind of built on the loose plot threads that were left behind by other Marvel movies. Not all of them, but enough of them. These things existing within the Marvel world, the Marvel universe, would have an effect on things. They wouldn't just stay stagnant. Of course they wouldn't. So I like that they decided to do that instead of just adding new stuff for us to learn about. Okay, now I'm going to touch on the stuff I didn't like about the movie. The post-credit scene was arse. I know that doesn't really count, but I really just got to get through this quick one. It's not worth sitting and waiting for. It's basically just another multiverse tease after they spent the entire movie not talking about multiverses, which was a breath of fresh air. But yeah, after sitting through the entire credits, the post-credits scene is just, oh yeah, by the way, there's a multiversal event coming. It's a multiverse, just reminding you. And that's it. You don't need to stay and watch it. That's literally it. There's nothing else. We are now at the point where Sonic the Hedgehog has better post-credit scenes than the Marvel Universe. I just loved Sonic 3 so fucking much, it was so hype. But yeah, biggest criticism for the movie itself, the CG is pretty abysmal. Red Hulk looks good for the entirety of his appearance, but that's pretty much seemingly where all the budget went, because there is multiple scenes in this movie where it's just really obvious that they're standing in front of a blue screen. There's a bit where Falcon's wings just kind of like flap, and it's really apparent that the wings aren't actually there. Like, I mean, obviously they aren't, but like, it's just really obvious. They look like something out of like a TV movie. And sometimes this is really obvious when emotional scenes are meant to be happening, that they're standing in front of a blue screen, and it can kind of pull you out of it. Not enough to ruin the movie for me, but it's still notable. Ultimately, I think this was a good movie. If it came out in any other phase of Marvel, it would be considered mediocre at worst. It's not as bad as Thor: Love and Thunder. It's not as bad as some of the other Marvel movies that have been coming around. In fact, I wouldn't even say it's bad at all. This movie is good. It's enjoyable. It's not great. It's not going to compete with Captain America: The Winter Soldier, but it's enjoyable. It's a fun time at the theatres, and I think, honestly, it would be a decent part of a day out to go see this movie in theatres. All that said, I can't really blame people for being cynical though, because I was too when I saw the initial movie posters. The view against massive corporate titans like Disney is shifting in society, and people are also starting to realise how fucked up this whole capitalism thing is. And at the same time, there has also just been a slew of slop that's been pumped out from Disney's content pipes, and we're just kinda getting tired of it. Almost any new Disney product that's released now is met with raised eyebrows and cynicism because, well, things haven't been great recently. And I think the recent track record kind of programs people to shoot this down and focus on the negatives more than any of its positives because, well, the company, the corporations, are the enemy right now. And while if you've seen any of my social media history, you will know that I'm not a fan of corporations and not a fan of soulless slop at all. It's not this movie's fault that corporations suck. It's not this movie's fault that Marvel hasn't really been very fun lately. But I think if you go into this movie looking for a fun experience, you'll find that. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe, it would really help me out, and leave a comment. If you didn't like this movie, let me know, write about it in the comments. And if you did like this movie, let me know, write about it in the comments. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Have a good day, guys. Peace.